If you are over 60, your refrigerator might be more dangerous than you think. Many older adults believe that putting food in the fridge means it will stay safe. Meals are cooked in large batches, leftovers are stored for convenience, and open jars of sauces or sliced meats are kept for weeks without concern. But cold does not mean clean. And time does not freeze just because food is inside a refrigerator. The truth is that several common foods can spoil faster than expected. They may still look and smell fine, but inside, they could already be growing bacteria, developing harmful compounds, or quietly turning into a threat to your health. Some cause stomach distress. Others can interfere with your medication. A few may trigger blood pressure spikes, blood sugar swings, or dangerous infections that become harder to fight with age. This video will walk you through the foods you should never keep too long in your fridge after 60. These are not rare or unusual items. They are found in most kitchens. And the danger is not just about food poisoning. It is about how these hidden changes inside familiar foods can quietly attack your body while you are simply trying to eat what feels normal. Let's begin with one of the most common habits among older adults that can slowly harm the liver, digestive system, and immunity: eating cooked meat that has been sitting in the fridge too long. Number 1. Leftover cooked meat, a hidden threat to your liver, gut, and immune health. Most people over 60 have one thing in common when it comes to food: they don't like waste. If there is leftover meat from dinner, it goes into the fridge. Sometimes it is eaten the next day. But often, it stays for several more. A few slices of roast beef, grilled chicken, or even pork stew may sit behind other containers, waiting for the right moment. And that moment can easily come too late. The problem is not just spoilage. It is what happens to cooked meat during storage. Even at refrigerator temperatures, cooked meats begin to oxidize. Fats break down. Proteins change shape. Over time, these shifts can produce compounds that irritate your stomach lining, increase inflammation, and strain your liver. The longer the meat sits, the more this silent transformation progresses. For younger people, the body may process these changes without much trouble. But after 60, the story changes. Your liver becomes more sensitive. Your digestive tract may no longer produce enzymes as efficiently. Your immune system reacts more slowly to bacterial growth. All of this means that meat stored too long can become far more harmful than expected. Most guidelines suggest eating refrigerated cooked meat within 3 to 4 days. That is not a generous window. And it depends on several conditions. The meat must be stored in a sealed container. It must be cooled quickly, ideally within 2 hours of cooking. And it must remain at a constant temperature below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But in reality, many households miss one or more of these steps. Meat is often left out on the counter while dinner ends. It is sometimes wrapped in foil or plastic without proper sealing. The fridge door opens and closes dozens of times a day. And if the power goes out, even for a short time, the internal temperature may climb just enough to activate bacterial growth without any clear warning. The most common bacteria involved in meat spoilage include Listeria monocytogenes, Clostridium perfringens, and Salmonella. These are not always visible. They do not always produce a strong smell. But they can cause serious illness, especially in older adults. Symptoms like nausea, stomach cramps, diarrhea, and fever can hit harder. More concerning is the risk of dehydration, kidney stress, and complications with medications used for heart disease or blood pressure. There is also another issue with storing meat too long: reheating. Many people reheat leftover meat in the microwave. But uneven heating can leave cold spots where bacteria continue to thrive. If the meat is not reheated thoroughly to at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit, you are not just eating leftovers. You are eating partially revived pathogens. Some types of cooked meat spoil faster than others. Ground meats, for example, have more surface area and are more prone to bacterial spread. Stews and casseroles with sauces may trap heat longer but can also trap bacteria deeper inside. Even roasted meats, if not sliced before cooling, may take too long to drop to a safe temperature. So what should you do? First, be realistic about how much meat you truly need for each meal. Cooking smaller portions may feel less convenient, but it keeps you safer. If you do have leftovers, portion them immediately into shallow containers. Write the date on each one. If you cannot finish within 3 days, freeze the extra right away. Second, do not rely on your nose alone. Spoiled meat does not always smell bad. Texture and color can change too, but sometimes the difference is subtle. If you are not sure when you stored it, do not take the risk. Third, reheat properly. Use a food thermometer if possible. Avoid eating cold meat straight from the fridge unless it was cooked very recently and stored correctly. If you see grayish edges, sliminess, or strange odors, throw it out. Finally, remember this. Meat is a rich source of nutrients, but only when fresh. After several days in the fridge, it can quietly turn against your body. At this stage of life, it is not about being wasteful. It is about protecting your health from things that no longer serve you well. Next, let's look at a type of food many older adults rely on for convenience, especially for quick sandwiches and snacks. It seems harmless, but once opened and stored in the fridge, it becomes one of the most dangerous items you can eat without realizing it. We are talking about sliced deli meats and cold cuts. Number 2. Cold cuts and deli meat, convenient but dangerous after a few days. Pre-sliced deli meats are a staple in many households. They are quick, easy to use, and require no preparation. For older adults, that convenience is even more valuable. A few slices of turkey, ham, or salami make a fast sandwich or add protein to a salad without the hassle of cooking. Once opened, the package usually goes straight into the fridge and may stay there for days, sometimes weeks. But what many people do not realize is that these meats carry a hidden risk. They can become dangerous long before they look or smell spoiled. The very things that make deli meat so convenient also make it more vulnerable to contamination and chemical breakdown. Deli meats are processed, meaning they often contain preservatives, stabilizers, and additives designed to extend shelf life. However, once the original packaging is opened, that protection is weakened. Exposure to air allows bacteria to grow. Every time you open the fridge and touch the package, you introduce more moisture and germs, especially if hands are not washed thoroughly or utensils are reused between steps. One of the most concerning bacteria linked to deli meats is Listeria monocytogenes. Unlike many bacteria that stop growing in cold temperatures, Listeria can thrive in the fridge. It prefers moist environments and can survive even in well-sealed containers. In healthy adults, exposure might lead to mild illness. But in seniors, especially those with weakened immune systems or chronic health conditions, Listeria can lead to severe infections, including sepsis and meningitis. This is not a rare problem. In multiple outbreaks linked to deli meat, the most affected population has always been people over 60. The symptoms may start with mild fatigue or stomach cramps. But if Listeria enters the bloodstream, it can escalate quickly. Hospitalization is often required, and in some cases, the infection can be fatal. Aside from bacteria, processed meats also come with a chemical burden. Most cold cuts contain nitrates or nitrites, which are added to preserve color and flavor. Over time, especially when stored too long, these compounds can break down into nitrosamines, which are potentially harmful. Repeated exposure to these substances has been linked to an increased risk of certain cancers and may place extra strain on the liver. There is also the salt factor. Cold cuts are among the highest sodium foods in a typical diet. While 1 or 2 slices might seem harmless, older adults often use them more frequently for quick meals. When consumed regularly, even small portions add up. High sodium intake is strongly associated with increased blood pressure and greater risk of heart disease, both of which are already concerns after 60. Storage mistakes make things worse. Many people believe that if the meat is still within its best-by date, it is safe. But that date only applies to unopened packages. Once opened, most deli meats should be consumed within 3 to 5 days. After that, bacterial growth and chemical changes make them riskier with each passing hour. Another common mistake is trusting visual signs. Spoiled deli meat might feel slimy or develop a sour smell, but Listeria and other harmful bacteria can exist without any of these warning signs. In other words, your eyes and nose are not reliable tools for judging safety in this case. To reduce your risk, follow 3 important habits. First, buy only what you need. Skip the value packs if you are not going to finish them in a few days. Choose smaller, freshly sliced portions when possible, and avoid pre-sliced packs that have been sitting on the shelf for long periods. Second, once opened, label the package with the date. Store it in the coldest part of the fridge, not the door, where temperature fluctuates more. Use clean utensils every time you touch the meat, and avoid leaving it out on the counter during meal prep. Third, watch your intake. Even if stored properly, processed meats should not be a daily habit. Try to replace them with fresh cooked protein, canned fish packed in water, or plant-based alternatives when you can. Remember, the risk is not just food poisoning. It is about repeated exposure to substances and bacteria that your body can no longer fight off the way it used to. What feels like a harmless sandwich could be opening the door to inflammation, digestive problems, or serious infection. Next, we are going to look at another type of food that seems fancy or comforting but hides its own set of dangers. Soft cheese and mold-prone varieties may carry more risk than you think, especially when kept too long or stored the wrong way. Number 3, soft cheese and mold-prone cheese, a silent danger in your fridge. For many older adults, cheese is more than a topping. It is a comfort food, a protein source, and sometimes even a quick meal when appetite is low. A few slices of soft brie, a spoon of cream cheese on toast, or a crumbled bit of blue cheese on salad may seem harmless, even beneficial. But when stored for too long, especially after opening, these types of cheese can become a serious health risk. Unlike hard cheeses, which can resist spoilage for longer, soft and mold-prone cheeses are far more vulnerable. Their moisture content, fat levels, and texture create the perfect environment for bacteria and mold growth. Once the original seal is broken, these cheeses begin to deteriorate faster than many people realize. One of the biggest risks is contamination with Listeria monocytogenes, the same bacteria that threaten cold cuts. Listeria is dangerous not because it causes instant symptoms, but because it hides quietly. It can grow in cold temperatures, survive on food surfaces, and become life-threatening in individuals with weakened immune systems. For people over 60, especially those with chronic conditions, the consequences of a Listeria infection can be severe. Symptoms may start as minor digestive issues. But if the infection spreads to the bloodstream or central nervous system, it can cause confusion, loss of balance, fever, and in the worst cases, death. Outbreaks of Listeria have been traced to soft cheeses repeatedly. And in each case, the most affected individuals were older adults. But bacteria are not the only threat. Mold is another silent enemy. Even in cheeses that are meant to have visible mold, like blue cheese or camembert, there is a fine line between safe and dangerous. Mold can begin to grow in ways that are no longer controlled. Once that happens, it can produce mycotoxins, which are substances that may damage your liver and impair your immune response. Many people make the mistake of simply cutting off the moldy edge and eating the rest. With hard cheese, this is sometimes acceptable. But with soft cheese, the mold can spread deep into the product. You cannot see it, but it is already there. Eating even a small amount of contaminated cheese can introduce toxins or bacteria that your body can no longer fight effectively after 60. Another overlooked issue is drug interaction. Some soft cheeses, especially those made from unpasteurized milk or fermented in traditional ways, contain compounds like tyramine. Tyramine can interfere with certain medications, particularly those used for blood pressure or depression. The result may be sudden spikes in blood pressure, headaches, or irregular heartbeat. For someone already taking multiple prescriptions, this interaction can be dangerous. Then there is the salt factor. Many soft cheeses are high in sodium, just like processed meats. Seniors who consume these cheeses regularly without checking labels may end up exceeding safe sodium limits. This can quietly raise blood pressure and increase the workload on the heart and kidneys over time. Storage habits also play a major role. Once opened, most soft cheeses should be consumed within 5 to 7 days. Yet many people push this limit, especially if the cheese still looks fine. The refrigerator becomes a trap. Cheeses are wrapped loosely, stored near the door where temperatures fluctuate, and often shared with the same knife used for other foods. Each of these steps raises the chance of contamination. So what can you do to reduce the risk? First, buy in small amounts. Skip the large blocks unless you are serving a group. Choose single-serve portions or pre-sliced packages that can be used quickly. Second, store cheese properly. Use airtight containers. Place them near the back of the fridge where it is coldest. Do not rely on cling wrap or foil alone. These materials allow moisture and bacteria to move in. Third, mark the date the cheese was opened. If you cannot remember when you first used it, do not take the chance. And if you ever see spots of green, black, or pink mold on a soft cheese, throw it away entirely. Do not try to salvage it. Finally, be cautious with cheese if you are on multiple medications. Ask your doctor or pharmacist whether any of your prescriptions could interact with aged or fermented cheeses. Knowing the answer could prevent a dangerous episode. Cheese can be nutritious, satisfying, and full of flavor. But after 60, your body becomes less forgiving of mistakes that once seemed harmless. Mold, bacteria, and hidden chemical compounds do not announce themselves with a loud warning. They sit silently, waiting for the right moment. In the next part of this video, we will move to another food that many people believe is healthy but often becomes dangerous without any visible sign. Cut fruit, especially when stored too long, can quietly raise your blood sugar, feed harmful bacteria, and contribute to unexpected health problems. Let's take a closer look. Number 4. Cut fruit stored too long, a sweet trap for blood sugar and bacteria. Fruit is often seen as one of the healthiest foods a person can eat. For older adults trying to manage their weight, digestion, or energy levels, a bowl of sliced fruit feels like a smart, light choice. Many prepare it in advance, storing apple slices, watermelon cubes, or pineapple chunks in containers for easy snacking throughout the week. But there is a hidden risk most people do not consider. Once fruit is cut, its natural protection is gone. The surface that was once sealed by skin is now exposed to air, moisture, and bacteria. Even in the fridge, those pieces begin to break down and invite trouble faster than expected. Cut fruit is high in natural sugars. These sugars not only feed your body but also feed bacteria. When left in the fridge for more than a couple of days, fruit can begin to ferment. This means bacteria begin to digest the sugars, producing gases and acids that are harmful if consumed in large amounts. While you may not notice a strong smell, the change is happening at the microscopic level. This process can quietly affect your digestive system. Older adults are especially sensitive to fermented or spoiled fruit. Symptoms may include bloating, cramping, loose stools, or even acid reflux. If you already take medication for digestion or blood sugar control, these symptoms can become more disruptive. One of the biggest concerns is blood sugar. Fruit is a natural carbohydrate. When eaten fresh and whole, the fiber helps slow the release of sugar into your bloodstream. But when fruit is cut and stored for days, it begins to lose that fiber structure. The result is a faster spike in glucose levels after eating. For someone managing prediabetes or diabetes, this can cause unexpected blood sugar swings that are harder to control. Some fruits are more risky than others. Watermelon and pineapple, for example, have high water and sugar content. Once cut, they become breeding grounds for bacteria even inside the fridge. Strawberries bruise easily and often develop mold quickly. Apples oxidize fast, turning brown and attracting yeast and bacteria unless they are sealed tightly. Another issue is cross-contamination. Many people prepare fruit using the same cutting boards, knives, or containers as meat or other foods. Even a small trace of bacteria from another item can turn your fruit into a carrier of harmful pathogens. And because fruit is usually eaten cold and raw, there is no heat to kill any bacteria before it enters your body. Mold is another danger. Small spots of fuzz on fruit often seem harmless. Some people simply cut around them and eat the rest. But mold can spread invisible roots deep into soft fruits. What looks like a surface problem may already be a full contamination. Eating moldy fruit can trigger allergic reactions, digestive upset, and in rare cases, toxic exposure that harms the liver or kidneys. So what can you do to stay safe? First, only cut the fruit you plan to eat within the next day or two. Preparing a large batch may seem convenient, but it increases your risk. If you must store it, keep it in airtight containers and place it toward the back of the fridge where temperatures stay colder and more stable. Second, inspect fruit closely before eating. Look for changes in color, texture, or smell. If the pieces feel slimy, overly soft, or have a fermented odor, throw them away. The cost of wasting a few slices is nothing compared to the cost of dealing with illness or unstable blood sugar. Third, be mindful of how you prepare fruit. Use clean knives, cutting boards, and hands. Wash the whole fruit before cutting, even if you do not eat the peel. This reduces the chance of transferring surface bacteria to the edible parts. Fourth, if you are watching your blood sugar or have been advised to limit certain types of carbohydrates, choose fruits with lower sugar content and higher fiber. Berries, apples, and pears are better options than melons or tropical fruits when it comes to steady glucose control. And finally, do not treat fruit as a safe food that can be left in the fridge indefinitely. It is perishable, fragile, and best enjoyed fresh. The moment it is sliced, a timer starts ticking. After a certain point, it is no longer helping your health. It is quietly working against it. In the next section, we will examine another category of food that is almost always in the fridge but often ignored. Jars of sauces, spreads, and condiments may seem harmless, especially if they still look clean and sealed. But once opened, they can become breeding grounds for bacteria and even produce toxins if not handled correctly. Let's take a closer look. Number 5. Condiments and sauces stored too long, the most overlooked source of fridge danger. They sit quietly in the fridge door. Ketchup, mayonnaise, mustard, soy sauce, barbecue sauce, and salad dressings. Jars and bottles lined up neatly, often half-used, some opened months ago. For most older adults, these condiments are trusted companions in daily meals. They add flavor, moisture, and familiarity. But hidden behind their convenience is a serious risk when storage and usage habits are not handled properly. The belief that sauces and condiments last forever is a dangerous myth. While many of these products contain preservatives or acidic ingredients that help slow spoilage, they are far from invincible. Once a bottle is opened, a countdown begins. Air exposure, fluctuating temperatures, and repeated contact with food particles can quietly turn your sauces into bacteria breeding zones. Let's start with mayonnaise and creamy dressings. These are especially risky because they often contain eggs or dairy. Even when refrigerated, they are vulnerable to bacterial contamination if not handled carefully. A dirty spoon dipped into a jar. A bottle left out during dinner and returned without proper sealing. These small habits create the perfect storm for bacterial growth. And the most dangerous part is, the contamination may not show any signs. No smell. No color change. Just harmful bacteria building up over time. Mustard, ketchup, and vinegar-based sauces are more stable, but they are not immune. Once opened, the acidity that helps preserve them begins to weaken. Repeated opening and closing, especially when done with unclean hands or utensils, introduces new microbes each time. Over weeks or months, this exposure adds up. You might squeeze some onto your sandwich and never suspect that what looks like a harmless condiment has already become a source of gut irritation or immune stress. Another common mistake is mixing brands or refilling bottles. Some people refill a half-used bottle of soy sauce with a different one. Others top off their salad dressing from a new bottle without rinsing the old container. These habits may seem frugal, but they increase the risk of chemical breakdown and cross-contamination. Different products may react with each other, and the result can be unpredictable. Older adults with sensitive digestion or reduced liver function are particularly at risk when exposed to these invisible changes. Even hot sauces, which feel like they should be safe due to their spice level, can go bad. Mold can form inside caps and bottlenecks. The high salt content may prevent quick spoilage, but it cannot prevent air, moisture, and time from degrading the ingredients. Once the smell changes or separation occurs, it is a warning sign that the product has broken down. Using it at this stage may lead to stomach upset, especially for seniors already dealing with acid reflux or ulcers. Let's not forget about jarred sauces. Tomato sauce, pesto, horseradish, and similar items are often used a few spoonfuls at a time. Then they go back into the fridge, sometimes uncovered, sometimes without checking the date. The top layer may develop mold, and many people scrape it off and use the rest. That is a serious mistake. With soft and moist foods, mold can penetrate much deeper than what you see. Eating these contaminated areas can cause allergic reactions or introduce toxins that overwhelm your immune system. So how can you protect yourself from these silent risks? First, check the label. Most condiments include storage instructions and a use by guideline once opened. Follow that carefully. Just because it smells fine does not mean it is safe. Second, write the date on the lid when you open a new bottle or jar. This small habit can save you from accidental overuse of expired products. If the product has been open for months and you are unsure when it started, it is safer to discard it. Third, never dip food or spoons directly into condiment jars. Always use a clean utensil. Avoid letting the bottle touch your plate. And if a sauce has been left out for more than 2 hours, especially creamy ones, do not put it back in the fridge. Fourth, inspect bottle caps and edges. That dried crust around the lid is not just unsightly. It is often the starting point for mold and bacteria. Clean caps regularly and discard any product with visible contamination. Finally, simplify your fridge. Most older adults do not need a dozen open sauces. Focus on keeping a few favorites, use them consistently, and finish them within the recommended time. Too many options lead to forgotten bottles, and forgotten bottles lead to health risks. These condiments may seem like small additions to your plate. But after 60, even small exposures to spoiled or contaminated products can trigger big problems. What starts as mild nausea can turn into a full gastrointestinal issue. A simple sauce should not be the cause of a hospital visit. Now that we have gone through the key hidden dangers in your fridge, it is time to recap the most important lessons and make sure you know how to protect yourself moving forward. In the final section, we will review everything and give you a clear, simple checklist to stay safe every time you open your refrigerator. You've just walked through 5 of the most overlooked dangers hiding in the average refrigerator. These are not rare foods. They are everyday items trusted by millions. But after 60, the rules change. What your body once tolerated without issue may now quietly erode your health, one bite at a time. Let's review what you need to remember. Leftover cooked meat becomes unstable after just a few days. Oxidation and bacteria build silently, even in a sealed container. Reheating is not always enough to kill the risk. Cold cuts and deli meats carry the threat of listeria, excess sodium, and dangerous preservatives. Once opened, they offer convenience, but at the cost of higher inflammation and potential infection. Soft cheeses and mold-prone varieties seem indulgent and comforting, but they can introduce harmful bacteria and trigger unexpected medication reactions. Their spoilage is often invisible. Cut fruit, while nutritious when fresh, becomes a fast fuel for bacteria and blood sugar spikes when stored too long. It is a trap disguised as health. And condiments, often seen as long-lasting, are among the most ignored threats in the fridge. A dirty spoon, an opened bottle forgotten for months, a crusted cap that hides mold. These small oversights can lead to serious consequences. The solution is not fear. It is awareness. Start by checking your fridge today. Look at the dates. Smell with caution. Clean your containers. And most of all, be honest about what you actually eat versus what you plan to eat. After 60, your body fights harder every day to stay balanced. It should not also have to fight against what is hiding in your refrigerator. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button. It helps this content reach more people who need to hear it. Share it with someone you care about. A neighbor, a parent, a friend. You might help them avoid a dangerous mistake they never saw coming. And in the comments, let us know. Have you ever eaten something from the fridge that made you feel off later? Or were you surprised by any of the dangers we covered? Your experience could help someone else stay safe. Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay sharp, and take care of yourself every single day.